think one of the hardest things about this past year is that from the outside, it probably didn't look like anything was wrong. But on the inside, I knew something had shifted. And I also knew it was bigger than I wanted to admit. Maybe you know that feeling too, when nothing has fully fallen apart, but deep down, you know something isn't working the way it used to. For a while, I kept hoping I could just think my way through it, push my way through it, keep going, and trust that eventually things would make sense again. But that is not what happened. What actually happened is that something in my life that had felt stable for a very long time wasn't stable anymore. And once I really let that sink in, I had to face more than just a money problem. I had to face what this past year was actually showing me. If you're new here, let me introduce myself. I'm Ronda Taylor. At 52, I sold everything I owned, bought a one-way ticket, and spent 9 years living and working across more than 30 countries as a full-time digital nomad. But over the past year, my income changed in ways I didn't expect. So I've been rebuilding ever since, while finding my way back to solo travel and the next version of this life, where I can live and work from anywhere again. This channel is where I document midlife reinvention in real time, the financial realities, the hard decisions, and what starting over actually looks like when you're in your 50s and 60s. If you're a woman in midlife trying to figure out what comes next, you're in the right place. A big part of what changed for me is that I lost my main client. And this wasn't just any client. This was someone I had worked with for 15 years. 15. She had been the anchor under my business for a very long time, month after month, year after year, even through all my travels. She kept me busy. She kept my income steady. And because of that, I got comfortable. I knew better. I already knew you're not supposed to build your life around one stream of income. But knowing something and actually structuring your life around it are two different things. And somewhere along the way, I stopped building past what was already working. That's the part I had to own. Not with shame, just honestly. I got comfortable. And when she decided to take a sabbatical for a year, it wasn't just a matter of needing a new client. It was much bigger than that. Because suddenly, the thing I had quietly depended on for stability was gone. And I had to really look at what I had built and what I hadn't. And maybe for you, this isn't about a client. Maybe it's a job, a relationship, a role, a version of life that used to hold everything together. Sometimes change doesn't show up as a dramatic collapse. Sometimes it shows up when something you counted on no longer works the way it used to. I think the reason this hit as hard as it did is because this wasn't my first reinvention. I've lived other versions of starting over. I became an empty nester. I spent years taking care of my mother. My marriage ended after 23 years. I've been through seasons where life changed shape in really big ways. So part of me thought, I know how to do this. I've rebuilt before. I have figured things out before. And that's true. But this still hit me hard because every season of reinvention asks something different from you. And this one hit my confidence. It hit the part of me that thought, I already built a life that worked. I already figured out how to do this. And then suddenly I was sitting there looking at my reality thinking, then why does this feel so shaky? Why do I feel so uncertain? Why does this feel harder than I thought it would? Those are the questions that humbled me. And I think that matters because sometimes the hardest part of change isn't the change itself, it's what the change touches in you. I didn't lose my skills this year. That makes a difference. I didn't lose my experience. I didn't lose my ability. I didn't lose the part of me that knows how to build. But I did lose my footing for a while. And that's a really strange feeling because you can know you're capable and still not feel connected to that capability in the moment. You can know you've done hard things and still sit there feeling stuck. And that's where I was for a while. I overthought everything. I hesitated. I got in my own way. Not because I didn't care, and certainly not because I was lazy, but because something in me had been shaken, and I hadn't fully caught back up yet. I think this is something a lot of people don't talk about enough. Losing confidence isn't the same as losing capability. And if you're in a season where you feel off, uncertain, or less steady than you used to, that doesn't automatically mean you have less to offer. Sometimes it just means that the ground underneath you changed. And at the same time, though, this past year was also doing something else. It was pushing me into a completely new season of learning. I spent a lot of time this past year learning AI. And that still feels a little strange to say out loud because that wasn't the plan. That wasn't the path I saw coming. But the industry I had been working in for decades was changing fast. So I had a choice. I could sit there feeling threatened by that, or I could start learning what was changing and figure out how to work with it. So that's what I did. Slowly at first. I wasn't some instant expert. I wasn't reinventing myself overnight. I was trying to understand what was happening, trying to make sense of it, trying to figure out how the skills I already had could still matter, but in a different way. And that ended up opening doors I didn't expect. I built an app. I started building more. I began using what I was learning in ways that actually felt useful and creative and energizing. And I think that part matters because while one part of my life was clearly unraveling, another part was opening. And if I hadn't been forced into this season, I don't know if I would have seen that. That's something I want you to hear too. A hard season may be exposing what's no longer working, but it may also be pointing towards something you wouldn't have seen otherwise. So when I look back on this past year now, I don't just see a hard year. I see a revealing year. It revealed where I had gotten too comfortable. It revealed where I certainly needed more structure. It revealed how quickly confidence can slip when the thing underneath you changes. And it also revealed that I'm still capable of learning, still capable of adapting, still capable of building something new. And I needed that reminder more than I realized, because I think when you're in a hard season, the temptation is to reduce yourself to the problem, to start thinking, maybe I missed my window. Maybe I'm behind. Maybe I should have done this differently years ago. And maybe there's some truth in parts of that, but it's not the whole truth. The whole truth is that sometimes life exposes the places where your old structure no longer fits. And that doesn't mean you're finished. It means you can't build the next version the same way you built the last one. And maybe for you, this doesn't look like losing a client. Maybe it looks like a job that changed, a marriage that ended, a role you've outgrown, a version of yourself that doesn't quite fit anymore. I don't know what your version is, but I do know there are seasons where life shows you very clearly this isn't working the way it used to. And as painful as that is, it can also give you clarity. Because once you really see it, you can stop spending so much energy pretending it's fine. And you can start asking a better question. Not, how do I get back to the old version, but what needs to be built differently now? That question changed something for me, and it might change something for you too. I don't think this past year was here to break me. I think it was here to show me what needed to change, not in some big dramatic way, not in some beautifully packaged life lesson, just in a real way, a humbling way, a clarifying way, a necessary way. And I'm still in it. I'm still rebuilding, still learning, still figuring out what this next version of my life and business is supposed to look like. But I can tell you this much. I'm building differently now. And maybe that's where your value is too in a hard season. Not in becoming who you were before, but in getting honest about what this season is asking of you now. If this resonates with you, I'd really love to hear where you are in your own season right now. And if one part of this hit home, tell me that in the comments too. I read every one of them. And if you want to follow along as I keep rebuilding this next chapter in real time, please subscribe. So until next time, rebuild boldly and live fully.